What if the next trillion-dollar investment opportunity isn't AI, but the biotech companies replacing today's blockbuster drugs? Over the next few years, billions of dollars in pharmaceutical revenue will disappear due to patent expirations. The companies ready with breakthrough drug pipelines could become the next market leaders.
$200 billion. Let that number sink in for a second. Between the years 2026 and 2030, this staggering amount of annual pharmaceutical revenue is going to be completely exposed to generic and biosimilar competition. We're not talking about a slight dip in the market here. It is a literal seismic shift in healthcare economics. The legacy pharmaceutical giants stand to lose heavily, while agile, innovative biotech firms stand to inherit this massive wealth.
Section 1. The Great Patent Cliff, the 2026 to 2030 expiration cycle.
So we're entering what industry analysts call the Great Patent Cliff, and this represents a massive existential threat to the top-line revenue of the legacy players. Now, if you're not familiar, a patent cliff happens when a blockbuster drug loses its exclusivity protection. The moment that legal shield drops, generic manufacturers and biosimilar competitors just flood the open market. Historically, especially for small molecule drugs, this means revenue doesn't just slowly taper off, it plummets rapidly. It completely reshapes a company's earnings power almost overnight. But who exactly is standing on the edge of this cliff? Well, we're looking at some of the most profitable drugs in the world right now. Take Merck's Keytruda, for example. It's an absolute titan in oncology, but it faces a very high investor impact as it approaches the 2028 patent pressure period. Then you've got Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer's Eliquis in the cardiovascular space, and they are facing severe pressure between 2026 and 2028. We're also talking about Johnson & Johnson's Stelara, AbbVie's Humira, Novartis's Entresto. Look, these aren't just everyday drugs. These are the foundational revenue pillars for these mega-cap companies.
Because of this sheer concentration of risk, industry observers expect these upcoming exclusivity milestones to completely flip the script on revenue leadership across the entire healthcare sector. If you own shares in these legacy companies, you need to pay attention, because their ability to navigate these specific expiration dates is absolutely going to dictate their stock performance for the next decade.
Section 2. Valuing the biotech pipeline, from preclinical to FDA approval.
Okay, so if the old legacy revenue is drying up, how does the stock market actually value these companies? It all relies heavily on pipeline value. Basically, this is the estimated future economic value of drugs that are currently in development. Institutional investors calculate this using a strict metric called risk-adjusted net present value, or RNPV. Long-term investing in biotech depends entirely on these probability-adjusted revenue forecasts to see if a company actually has what it takes to replace those expiring revenue streams. Think of clinical drug development like a massive funnel. There is a direct inverse relationship between trial-stage risk and potential value creation. Down at the preclinical and phase 1 trial stages, you've got very high risk, which yields low near-term valuation. But as a drug successfully clears phase 2 and especially phase 3, the risk drops significantly and boom, the valuation bumps up. By the time an asset reaches FDA review and commercial launch, the clinical risk is at its lowest and your probability of immense shareholder value creation is right at its peak.
Section 3. Big Pharma's strategic response, mergers, acquisitions, and partnerships.
With their backs completely against the wall, these legacy giants are aggressively turning to M&A. But it's important to note that different major players are positioned very differently right now. Merck has very high exposure, so their investor outlook is heavily dependent on their post-Keytruda pipeline success. Compare that to Eli Lilly. They have much lower patent cliff exposure and a very strong pipeline, putting them in a highly favorable, growth-oriented position. Meanwhile, you've got companies like AbbVie and Novartis aggressively transitioning, utilizing their strong pipelines to offset their moderate to high exposures.
And because of these massive disparities in exposure, we're seeing absolutely record biotech acquisition activity. Management teams at these major pharmaceutical companies are practically forced to go shopping. They desperately need to acquire late-stage biotech assets that are capable of generating meaningful revenue within the next 5 years, just to plug the massive holes their expiring patents will inevitably leave behind.
Ready to find the next major market leader? If you're enjoying this market analysis, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Fox of Wall Street for weekly stock market insights and investing education.
Section 4. Top biotech investment opportunities, where the smart money is flowing. So where's the real value? When you're trying to identify attractive pipeline value, companies holding phase 3 assets are prime acquisition targets.
When they post positive phase 3 trial results, they often experience huge, immediate valuation bumps, mostly because Big Pharma is just sitting there, checkbook in hand. On the flip side, oncology remains a massive magnet for capital. Immunotherapy, cell therapy, and precision medicine, these are critical areas where true innovation commands a massive market premium. Then you've got the classic battle of niche versus mass market. Rare disease treatments are highly attractive long-term investments because they benefit from extremely limited competition, major regulatory incentives, and immense pricing power. Now contrast that with obesity and metabolic health. GLP-1 therapies have created literally one of the fastest-growing pharmaceutical markets in history. Identifying the next-generation obesity treatments in the pipeline is a huge focus for aggressive growth investors right now.
Section 5. Key risks for investors. Navigating the biotech minefield.
Look, navigating the biotech minefield requires a cold, hard look at the downside. The two highest impact risks can absolutely decimate a stock's value overnight. First is clinical failure, when a drug just completely fails to meet its trial endpoints. Second is FDA rejection, where final approval is delayed or denied entirely. Both of these carry very high to high impact. And honestly, a single negative press release here can slash a biotech's market cap by 50 to 80% in a single trading session.
And while clinical failure is obviously the most dramatic, you cannot ignore the moderate risks. Things like unexpected competition from better therapies, pricing pressures from government reimbursement changes, or fierce patent litigation. Legal disputes over exclusivity can severely alter a drug's risk-adjusted net present value. Smart investors make sure they price every single one of these factors right into their valuation models.
Section 6. Takeaways for smart investors. What retail investors should watch.
To actually profit from this massive sector rotation, here are the specific catalysts you should be tracking right now. Mark your calendars for upcoming Phase 3 trial results and FDA approval dates. You'll want to keep a very close eye on patent expiration schedules for the major legacy players and watch for any immediate surges in mergers and acquisition activity. Also, be sure to rigorously analyze pipeline diversification so the companies you invest in aren't overly reliant on a single blockbuster drug. These are going to be your ultimate leading indicators for impending stock movement.
So what does this all mean? It boils down to three massive takeaways. Number 1, the 2026 to 2030 patent cliff exposes more than $200 billion in legacy revenue, which is forcing a total market shift. Number 2, as we enter this transformational period, pipeline quality is officially the single most important driver of long-term shareholder returns. And number 3, late-stage and highly innovative biotechs, especially in oncology and GLP-1 therapies, represent the absolute prime acquisition opportunities for the next 5 years.
The real question you have to ask yourself is, which major biotech giant will secure their future and which will fall off the cliff? Thanks for watching Fox of Wall Street. Subscribe for weekly market analysis, sector deep dives, and smarter investing strategies.